Welcome to the Embodying Excellence Podcast. We're your hosts, Carlo and Brenden. How's it going, Brenden?
I'm going really well, thank you. What about yourself?
I'm good. We've had a big week, haven't we?
Oh yeah, 100% we have.
You've got your first week of holidays and chilling, and I've just been making lots and lots of content. And now for the show, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about showing up.
That's a big deal, isn't it? Especially when it comes to showing up for yourself, showing up for others, and showing up when it matters. Like, I think they're the three most important times to show up, because a lot of the times we find ourselves showing up to things that often don't matter. And we put a lot of energy and a lot of investment into things that either don't come into fruition or they don't matter as much as we think. And so what I'd like to do is dive a little bit deeper into why firstly showing up matters, but then examples of showing up for yourself, showing up for others, and showing up when it matters.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's very important. So many different aspects of it, whether that's for yourself in doing tasks that you said this to yourself you're going to do, whether that's for showing up for certain events or like for other people. And yeah, they're the main two things to me. But yeah, there's that many ways that it's important. It depends on like your standards as well, what you consider showing up. There's that many things I can speak about.
Absolutely, then dive right in.
We're showing up. So first thing for me is showing up for yourself. When you show up for yourself, then you can show up for other people better. If you're constantly doing things that you said to yourself you're going to do, that's essentially showing up and executing on those things to the best of your ability. Whereas, like, if you don't show up, you're going to let yourself down, and as a result, the other people in your lives are going to be feeling that, because A, you're not the best person you can be, and B, that's going to have a follow-on effect to how you treat them, because of your own sort of self-worth has gone down, and how well you can show up for them. And then showing up for them, for example, when they're in need, could be a situation where you can't be there physically, but you just help them the best way that you can. And whether that's through a phone call or asking someone to do something on your behalf, there's a few ways that you can go about it. Like, that all comes down to your own discipline as well, because if you're disciplined enough to get around those things, I'll take this for example, right? Say if you get a phone call, right, and you get asked to do something, and you've set yourself a task to do, you're in the middle of doing it, right? And that call that comes in is very inconvenient, because you've already committed to do that said thing, right? You can either show up for that person, or you can just continue what you're doing. But at the end of the day, well, depends on how high your standards are for yourself. That decision not to show up for the other person is going to impact the task you're doing now. Mm-hmm. If you've got a really high standard for yourself, that's going to linger, and what you're doing now is not going to have as good an impact. Say if it's a workout, for example, you're not going to train as hard because you've got that at the back of your mind. Say if you're in the middle of a project, you're not going to focus as much, because there's those that standard at the back of your mind of, oh, I should have done this, that regret of not turning up for that person is going to linger. Whereas if you just go, show up for that person, or even phone call, do that, just get the problem resolved and show up for that person. And then you can move on to do the other thing, no matter what time it is or whatever it is, getting the thing done. You're going to help them out. You're probably going to do a lot better job later on at doing what you said you're going to do in that present time, that task you were doing. And everyone's going to benefit rather than constantly live in regret all the time and not having shown up for that person. And yeah, that's essentially, to me, what showing up is.
Well, showing up is an everyday decision.
Yeah.
It's not something where you go, oh, I showed up, so then that's it. Like, it's, for example, like when you make a professional sports team, for example, right? You train and train and train and train until you sign the contract. When you sign the contract, that's not your invitation to go and coast.
No.
That's your invitation to go and step up. You've reached that next level. You've reached that milestone that you've been training all of your childhood and adolescence for to get this professional contract. This is the next stage. And so what you were just saying is that by showing up consistently, you're enabling yourself to grow and you're enabling yourself to move into the next stage of your life. And so if you're training for a particular competition, let's say it's a powerlifting competition, for example, right? You're training, eating well, recovering well, getting your massages, getting your sleep, getting your supplements, all these different things leading up to the competition. You do this competition and you get the numbers. Once you do get the numbers, then if you decide to compete again, then you've elevated yourself into the next phase. And so now you're looking to increase your numbers. And so your protocols and your standards are going to have to increase in order to then elevate yourself. And so when you consistently show up, once you've shown up for the particular event, that's the threshold that you're about to cross. And then you move into the next journey. And so showing up isn't just, oh, hey, I'm here. It's consistent, deliberate, intentional action to either improve yourself if you're training or you're starting something like an enterprise or a job or anything like that, and then working your way so that then the skill set that you have then supersedes what you used to be able to do. So that then when you reach that threshold and you cross that threshold into the next phase of your life, then the skills that you have adopted are now going to be useful in that next period. I would imagine being a parent is the same thing. I'm no parent myself, but at the same time, when you do live a life where you meet somebody, you get together and decide, hey, I'm gonna have a child, you're preparing to have that child. And when you have that child, then you've reached that next part of your life. Now you're a parent. And so the skills that you've learned as an individual, as a couple, are now going to be integrated into this particular child's life that you're about to raise. And so consistently showing up day to day means that the deliberate actions that you take, the deliberate skills that you learn that are going to positively affect both the relationship between each other and your child will then enable you to grow. And so that daily decision to consistently show up, not just physically, but also emotionally, mentally, socially, the welfare of yourself and the people around you now bear weight. And so that means you need to be able to adjust for the cost of your decisions as well. And so when you are single, yes, there are personal responsibilities that you need to take in order for you to not die, but then also not be so completely ostracized and isolated that you end up by yourself. But then that then changes when you do get into a relationship, or when you do decide to start a family, or you do get a better job, or anything in general. And so showing up isn't just physical. It isn't just, hey, I'm here, I've punched the clock in, I've punched the clock out, see you later. You know what? There are some people that do live like that, and more power to you if that's the way that you'd like to live. But we're a show about embodying excellence. And so what that means is that you are going to be uncomfortable. You are going to recognize patterns that you're not showing up in certain aspects of life. I know that. I can't speak for you and I can't speak for anybody else, but at the same time, I'm certain that there are things where you'll be thinking, you know what, I could probably do more. And so when you have that, that's the moment where you go, hey, you know what, here's an opportunity for me to show up again, and then do it again. There's nothing wrong with failure. Failure is a great teacher because it allows for you to then fully embrace the idea that you're human, that you're imperfect, that you are fallible, and that you're able to step back and actually take in some lessons and go, yeah, hey, you know what? This I need to do differently. Here's how I'm going to show up. And then you prepare, then you plan, and then you execute. And you go bang, 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 bang. That's showing up for yourself. Then when you look at showing up for others, that also means that you take into account their needs, their wants, their desires, but that's also at your own volition. There's a difference between going, oh, I need to ensure that this and this and this and this happens so he's happy and she's happy and this and that, but that comes at the expense of your own well-being. That is not being considerate of other people. That's not showing up for other people. That's showing up at your own expense to other people. And other people can see it. Some people will take advantage of it. Other people will just detract from you because they can just see that you're both needy, desperate, and at the same time, you're willing to do whatever it takes to either be their friend or show up to them at your own expense, which looks very, very needy. And so understanding that and actually going, what do I need for myself? How can I show up to be better? How can I be improving as an individual? And then what can I do to then share what I've learned, the skills and the abilities to then improve not only my own life, but the people around me. That is showing up so that everyone as a collective improves, because there is a collective consciousness about it. Because when you walk into a room and you feel this really tight, restrictive energy, you can feel that people are silent, people are tense, people aren't saying what they would like to say. There's no freedom. Then when you go into a different place where it's loose and people are able to speak freely and people are having a good time and everything else, you know that you have that safety to be able to show up the way that you'd like to, so that the expression enables you to then do what you would like to do. And so by understanding the difference and then also implementing what you need and then making the decision daily to show up, you're able to show up as your best.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it's about as well, showing up for you as your best. Because although, like you touched on before, people just show up, just sign in and just be there for the sake of being there. If you show up for a workout and you have no intensity, is there a real point to doing that?
No.
Not really. If you show up to a social event and you don't talk to anyone and just keep in the corner, is there a point in showing up?
Absolutely not. And I can say it as I've done it.
I've done it before as well. So there's a difference between showing up and actually showing up. You've got to have the intent there behind it, and it's all about that intent. If you have the right intent behind what you're doing, you're going to show up effectively in what you believe in what's best for the other people. That all makes a difference at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I'll give you another example that, you know, what you were touching on just reminded me of. You know, sometimes when people see your journey and they go, oh, wow, like you're doing really well. I'd like to get together and sit down and pick your brain, right? And you think, why? Like, because if you wanted the results that I have, you wouldn't need to pick my brain to do it. Like, you know what needs to be done. It's just that you're choosing not to, and you're hoping there's something easier to be able to do, so that then you don't have to do the work that you think you have to do in order for you to get the result that you want. And so by seeking other people's approval or seeking other people's information and not doing what you know you need to do, that not only takes away from you showing up to the everyday cause of improving yourself, but then you're also putting a hindrance on that other person doing their daily things in order for them to succeed as well. Because what you're doing is then you're taking away from them at their own expense for your own gain. Where if you did come and interact with a person and you demonstrate an ability to be able to provide them something of value and they're able to reciprocate, then that is then what is a mutual exchange. You show up for the fact that you decided that you wanted to show up. You decide that you'd like to show up for the fact that you decided to show up because you went, hey, you know what, this could be a good opportunity to interact with somebody who is either at the same level as me, who may be a little bit higher, but at the same time is willing to listen and is open to listening. And you both benefit from it. Where if you know that someone who is ahead of you, you're not willing to do anything to change where you are, but you're also still just taking the information from someone who's above you, you're just using them. And then at the same time, they feel used and you feel useless because even though you're getting all of this information, all you're doing is mentally masturbating. And then when you finally ejaculate, then you have this euphoria of, oh my God, this new insight, it feels good, like I know what to do now. But then reality hits and you never do anything at all. And then you're just cycling like that all over again. And so once again, from personal experience, I've done that multiple times. And so now being on one side of the coin to then the other side of the coin, like it's a stark contrast. And the fastest way to differentiate between the two is to begin showing up and decide that, hey, you know what, regardless of what's happening, this is what I need to do. Here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to go get it done. And then you go and get it done.
Yeah, it's about doing the right thing by the people around you as well. Like if you show up and no matter what the circumstance, if you feel as though you can benefit them, you show up. It's just to me, it's the right thing to do rather than just holding back and not doing that because you're sort of afraid of like jumping in when you don't feel like you belong in there. Like for example, if someone's working out, if you feel the need that someone needs a bit of a hand or something like that, you show up for them because it's the right thing to do. Whereas you can just sit back and allow something to happen. That's a big thing for me. I would struggle if something were to happen and I had the opportunity to stop it by showing up. That cost of regret would just constantly replay in my mind. So that's why I try to take things head on, get the situation negated, show up for that person, and by showing up for that person, you're also showing up for yourself because that's holding by your own standards and living to up what you value in yourself.
Absolutely. And even through tragedy, like yesterday's events, there was one dude that showed up and completely disarmed like a person with a weapon and risked his life. Like he didn't have to do that.
No.
Like, but he just watched and said, hey, I'm not going to stand here and do nothing. Like that's showing that honestly, that could be the entire episode today. All we had to do was just describe that man's actions yesterday. That could be the entire episode.
Well, that's showing up.
That's exactly what we just described. Right.
Yeah.
In action. Right. Because we can go ahead and talk for the next half an hour about what that looks like. But then that dude yesterday literally just did it. Like, and that's it. Like, because a lot of the time there is a time to convene, to discuss, to understand, but then there's a time to do. Like in today's circumstance where we're sitting here and actually having a discussion, is the time to discuss. It's the time to provide insight and provide examples of how people are able to show up. In yesterday's circumstances, it was do or die. And that guy just decided to do. And that's exactly the mentality that sometimes we need. Sometimes we need that kick in the ass and go, hey, imagine imagine we were that guy yesterday. What would we do, right? Will we just stand there and watch, or will we go out and do something, right? And a lot of us in our minds would go, oh, I don't know. Like very few of us would go, oh, hey, we'll go out and do something, right? And so, but as horrible as those circumstances were, at the same time, in our minds, sometimes we need that in not the actual events themselves. I want to clarify that, but as in that do or die mentality, hey, we need to make something happen so that then we can grow, we can become better. And then at the same time, there is a time where, you know what, we need to just cool off. We need to wind down and go about the rest of our day. Because if we just do the do or die, then eventually we wind up grinding out. And then that all blows up in our face. And we've seen that so many times as well, where people just go all in, all the time, non-stop, no recovery, no downtime, no nothing, right? And they either turn out to be ridiculously successful or they just ridiculously burn out. And so that's really end-to-end living, and that's hard. And so if that is something that you're into, then we can go in length and discuss about that as well, because we're both of the idea that there isn't a balance. But in saying that, we need to act accordingly and in proportion to where we are. So if you're in a place where you're unsure where to start, that's where the do or die works. Where if you're in a place where you've done a lot of the legwork and you've built yourself up to have a family, to have a successful job or a successful enterprise, and you're in limbo, that's where you're going, you know what, I need to assess my options and I need to stop, scale back a little bit and go, what's important, what's not, and then show up to the things that are important. So often it's church, it's family, it's country, it's work, right? And being able to just assess where you are is essential, so that then you're able to clearly orient yourself in the direction that you need to go. So that then showing up just doesn't mean doing without thinking, and it doesn't just mean thinking without doing either. It means that you're able to integrate them both, so that then you're better off when you're growing and taking all of that in and you're experiencing life to its fullest. Because when you take away those experiences and you take away those failures, then it tells a very boring story. And then also at the same time, you don't learn. And then also at the same time, if you're still doing the same shit all the time and things aren't working and you're not willing to change, well, then you're not going to grow either. And so depending on how you decide to show up, both mentally and physically, that'll determine the trajectory of where your success goes.
Yeah, that's right. And so priorities, what you're prioritizing in terms of showing up. So that at one point in time, like showing up could be to like for someone, right, for an event, for a birthday party or whatever it might be. Or showing up might be for someone where they're having difficulty with a situation in their life, and it could be not just physically, it could be through a phone call, through this and for whatever it might be, through messages. Like, I mean, it's got all different ways there's different ways that you can show up for someone. And at the end of the day, like you said, if it could be church, could be whatever event or thing it might be, like showing up, it's about what you prioritize. You can, if you make a priority in your life, you'll show up because that's part of you.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you don't make it a priority, then you're less likely to show up for both yourself and for the other person.
Absolutely. I think showing up just it boils down to the two P's, right? Priorities and presence. And so you set the priorities and you're present, it flows. If you don't have priorities, it's everywhere. And then especially if you're not present, then like you might be just there physically but not there anywhere else, then that's definitely going to hinder your ability to be able to do things well. Because then when you're not focused, things just go sloppy, things go sideways, and then you're overstimulated, you're not regulated. And what happens then is you let emotions dictate decisions. And so emotions are important, but they're not the accelerator. The emotions are the steering, where your reason is the accelerator, the purpose is the accelerator, right? And so you're able to let emotions be there, but you've got to let them flow through, so that then when you are showing up on a consistent basis, you're enabling yourself to not only feel what's going on, but to fully experience and embrace what's going on as well. Because stoicism only works when it's needed. It doesn't work all the time because it seems a little inhuman. And so being able to be human is also very important, especially when you're dealing with other people. And so a lot of the time when you're showing up for yourself, it's a great approach, because it allows for you to fully embody and fully understand where you are, where you're going, what you'd like to do. When you are dealing with other human beings, showing up is different. Showing up means that you're fully present, you're immersing with the other human, you're being considerate, you're being understanding, you're being compassionate. All these different virtues all come together when you are dealing with other people. When you're dealing with just yourself, then you need to be able to also use those virtues, but in a way that's going to be more self-serving rather than self-sacrificing. So that then when you do be present for other people, you're not sacrificing your values or virtues either, but by design, you're sharing them because you've done that work, that inner work to cultivate the strength to be able to share them without restraint, without compromise.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes with what you just mentioned with priorities and presence. If you're not prioritizing that situation, you're not in your mind present either, because it's not a priority to you, you don't really give a fuck about it, right?
No.
And you're thinking about something else. And as a result of that, of thinking about something else at the same time, you're not present with where you're at. So you're not showing up. So that's all interrelated into each other. So
Absolutely. And the thing too is that by being present, by being single-minded in an approach to growth, allows for you to narrow down distractions, and allows for you to then put yourself in a opportunistic position to grow, where if you let other things enter your mind with what you're prioritizing, you firstly no longer have any priorities because everything's just in there. And then you just succumb to distraction. And then when you do succumb to distraction, then not only does your energy get pulled in multiple ways, but you don't get the thing done that you were supposed to show up for, that you were supposed to be present for. And then in the end, no one benefits, because not only weren't you there, but then everyone felt your distance as well. Everyone felt that coldness, and everyone felt that inability to connect. And so then everybody's ability to connect, when it's hindered, then their trust diminishes and everything just spirals down. And so we will always want an upward spiral of not just positivity, but influence, by being able to step up when it's necessary, like that guy yesterday, when you're able to demonstrate an ability to not only be able to focus, but to also maintain your focus and maintain your priorities, so that then any endeavor that you decide to embark on is successful. And then you're able to then inspire other people to do the same, because you have the power within you. It just means that you have to decide to be slightly uncomfortable. That's really the only drawback that people might have, is that it's slightly uncomfortable. And sometimes we just prefer comfort over uncertainty and don't do anything at all. And so that's not the way that we do things here. And even though that there are moments where we do act like that, at the same time, we learn to recognize, hey, look, this is actually a time where I'll do this and this and this. I recognize this now, and this is what I'm changing to. And then you make those changes. And so it's a constant re-evaluation of decisions, but then it's also a constant different decision making. And when you make a different decision, you get a different outcome.
Yeah, that's right. And imperfect action is better than no action at all. So that's showing up, essentially, like is doing it regardless, even if you're not at your best, even if you're feeling like shit. It's about having that discipline to show up regardless. And then as you go through it, whether it's through a workout or if it's through an event like a birthday party or whatever it might be, you're going to be beneficial of it, and the people around you are going to be of benefit if you're present in that situation and showing up in all of yourself.
That wraps up today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, please like, share and subscribe, and have a great day, guys.